So I started watching this movie, and Feeney from Boy Meets World is Dustin Hoffman's character's father. It's amazing! Feeney!
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
I'll get undressed now, is that all right?
Sure.
Why don't you watch?
Oh, sure, thank you. What happened between Mrs. Robinson and me was nothing. It didn't mean anything.
Well, that's not saying much for my wife.
The point is, I don't love your wife, I love your daughters, sir.
Benjamin has just finished college and he's trying to avoid the one question everyone keeps asking. What does he want to do with his life? An unexpected diversion crops up when he is seduced by Mrs. Robinson, a bored housewife and friend of his parents. But what begins as a fun tour turns complicated when Benjamin falls for the one woman Mrs. Robinson demanded he stay away from, her daughter Elaine. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's me, Sandy, your YouTube movie buddy, and today we're going to be looking at The Graduate. I'm going to tell you the bad, the good, my first impressions, and see what you guys have to say. And for that, our guest today is going to be Cogan Spoerry, a really good, interesting guy, and so let's get started. You have to eat your vegetables before you get dessert, so let's look at the bad stuff first. There really isn't a lot of bad stuff for this movie. What I will say is kind of a warning to some things. Of course, as you probably saw in the trailer, it's got adult humor. It's not for children. There is a split second of nudity. Cinematography and the style of directing and the pacing of it puts you off kilter. So in researching for this, I saw a lot of people who said that they didn't like it the first time they saw it, or they didn't know how to handle it the first time they saw it. It has a lot of wide shots. I would say it's one of the first art house films where it's highly stylized cuts and direction. But I actually really enjoyed that, but it is something that took me a good 20 minutes to get to handle when I first started watching it. Really, that's all there is for the bad. Now let's get to the good stuff. The acting in this movie is amazing. It was basically the breakout performance for Dustin Hoffman, and Dustin Hoffman is one of the best of his generation, so it's a really good performance. Everybody gives a good performance. Anne Bancroft plays the older woman that he has an affair with, and it's a very difficult character to pull off because there's so many ways that it could have gone wrong. But she gives it such depth and such complexity of the character that you feel more pity for her and admiration at kind of her wisdom and her intelligence. The score is another thing that's really amazing about this because it's Simon and Garfunkel, and so it was a really, at the time, it was a really like culturally relevant soundtrack and quite popular with what people were listening to at the time. It also functions as a way to kind of contrast the song with what you're seeing on the screen. So everything's busy and moving and going around him fast, and you hear Song of Silence. This is a comedy, and that's something that's important to note as well. I didn't really know that this was a comedy going in, and I found it kind of difficult and kind of jarring. But once I figured out, like, oh, this is a joke, it became one of the funniest movies I've seen this year. It's very awkward, coming of age story. So if you took the awkwardness that people feel in that transitionary period from adolescence to adulthood, and you just kind of intensified that exponentially, it's an endearing kind of awkwardness, which again, it just goes to show Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of it, because it could have come off looking like a shtick if it wasn't done properly. So now for my first impressions, my little philosophic ramblings on this movie. This is really good at portraying a coming-of-age story and the anxieties that everyone feels coming out of college and not sure what to do about their future, and then maybe they go into the period of kind of being ambivalent, saying, yeah, laissez-faire, let's see, it doesn't matter, let's see what happens. And then going into like action for action's sake, and those different transitional periods within everybody's life. Alright, so now for what you guys think. Our guest this episode is Cogan Spoerry, and this guy is also doing the same kind of thing, a top 250. I saw it, and that was one of the things that inspired me to do it, so I said, I offered to ask him to come along and ask him what he thinks of The Graduate, which is one of his favorite films. So we're gonna turn it over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Cogan Spoerry. I would like to thank My First Impressions for having me in his video. It means a lot to me, and I hope to do this more in the future. As you can probably tell, because I have a big poster right next to me, The Graduate is a film that I absolutely adore, and I have gone on record saying that it's one of, if not my favorite film of all time. Why The Graduate is one of my favorite films of all time, it's a little hard for me to explain, but basically there's just a lot about it that really impacted me as a viewer. This is a film that made me realize how precious just a few moments of screen time could be. Like, every moment in a film truly matters, even if it's only a few seconds. And The Graduate was such a great example in making that clear to me, because the first time I watched The Graduate, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and honestly, I did not like it all that much. I'm not gonna lie. The majority of the movie, I was like, it's good, but I'm not really seeing what's supposed to be so revolutionary or impactful about it. But then we got to the ending, which, without giving too much away, you know, it has this moment where it's like they've ran away from their past. They've gotten away from the past that they don't want to be a part of, but in doing so, they started running towards this future that they suddenly realize, oh my god, maybe I don't want to be a part of this either. But it's a dead end now. They have no way of going back or going in any other direction, and it's so magnificent in the way that it's done, and it made me go back and watch the film again and look for so many little details and little things about the film that made the overall experience of it so much better. Okay, that is the definition of a great ending, when it can improve the viewing experience of it multiple times after you've seen the movie. I mentioned in my review of this film that I don't think it's at all a time capsule of its time period. It's not just, you know, something that speaks volumes to the rebellious spirit of the late 1960s. It's something that really does transcend into other generations and really speaks volumes to young people of any generation, including myself right now, as somebody going through, you know, different jobs, gonna be going to different schools. I'm so unsure about my own future. I always look to this film as a sort of something to always keep in mind, as a, you know, a reminder that I need to think about my future, and I need to take the time to evaluate where I'm going instead of just rushing into a situation that I may just hate even more than the ones I've been in previous. So that's why I love The Graduate, and that's why it continues to be one of, if not my favorite film of all time. So thank you for having me in your video, man. I look forward to doing this more in the future, and of course, have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you so much for that. That was really good. It is a really great film, and it does speak to every generation. And I really think that everybody should see this movie at least once, because it's just so funny. For you guys out there, definitely see this film. You'll be in for a good time. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoy this, please give it a like, a share, subscribe. And thank you so much for Cogan Spoerry for being on here today. And we'll see you all next time at The Hustler, which looks really good.